Travel notes. Discuss ideas, actions, and projects of people who want to be free, along with others who are free, in time and space, in the endless struggle against the cancer of authority. As it is endless, it changes continually, and faces, tensions, perspectives, and possibilities also change. It's a whirlwind, and you're at the center of the cyclone, on your hands and feet, thrown towards a giant leap, and you try to ward off the blows and hold onto an offensive position, and you improvise along a path that many think is not worth taking. They think it cannot be proposed because too many have attempted it already, and where are the results of so many efforts and attempts? Maybe those who really took up the challenge of freedom know the answer, in the thread that links the steps of those who were, are, or will be enemies of imposed rules and commands. They have who knows what secret joys and victories, or maybe just an obstinate desire to carry on and keep on gambling oneself and all the rest. A boost to engaging in the struggle without reserve, and so to finding the courage to propose it to others. This means that the freedom in one's step and motivations has to be molded and lived in first person. It cannot be put off to some glorious future. Today, in a world of slaves, banks, laws, and chains, my freedom exists. It is on the edge of experience. Nobody pushes himself so high as the one who ignores his goal. Cromwell. Traveling can mean many different things during one's life. There are monotonous journeys, endlessly repeated along the tracks of daily survival, taking millions of people to the temples of exploitation. In the daytime and at night, through the countryside or suburbs darkened by the smoke of the factories and the misery of alienation, thousands of hours and thousands of miles that change nothing. The same disgusted faces, dirty windows, rituals to be repeated until flesh and soul are consumed. It is the pace of exploitation. It is a world dominated by artificial and deadly needs and ambitions that are sweeping away everything natural and balanced that the human race has conquered for itself through hundreds of years of hard work and ingeniousness. In its confrontation with the elements and other living beings on the planet, and during hundreds of years of struggle against inequality that other human beings have imposed on their fellows. Today, all over the world, what gives a meaning to one's existence is consumerism. Consume, consume, and consume again. It doesn't matter whether the product is material or intellectual, and it doesn't matter about the quality. What counts is that our purse can afford it. The most important thing is that the economic machinery producing and commercializing goods that are basically useless and harmful but are tempting in the market and can represent a goal to be achieved keeps on functioning. Objects, food, experiences, kilometers, lands, and culture are to be consumed in order to make people feel satisfied with the way they spend their days. It is the same spirit that makes tourism fascinating, even though the distances to be covered and places to be reached are cut out in pre-confectioned packets, and the duration, if there are no unforeseen unpleasant events, is known in advance. Moments of recreation from the daily routine with which people hope to find, at least until their next holiday, just enough boost to prevent them packing their suitcases once and for all. After all, the tourist industry, i.e. the transformation of journeys and the planning of territory, resources, and production into commercial goods for this purpose, offer a considerable service to the maintenance and reproduction of the capitalist disaster. On the one hand, it creates and spreads the market to places that couldn't otherwise be exploited, be it due to their natural features or particular demographic and human conditions. On the other, it guarantees that journeys be protected from the risk of unpredictability and possibly really being able to change one's existence. And for sedentary people, there is the option of comfortable journeys on the sofa in the emotion of TV or substances, legal or illegal, it makes no difference, to deepen one's dissatisfaction. And you gain strength, once again, now that a new day is about to start, and who knows what roads you will cover, what faces, embraces, and new escaping adventures will come to you one after another. You are at the center of the storm, and this makes each day and night the greatest emotion you could follow. Midnight, 19th to 20th February. But there are journeys that shock our habits and certainties, not only ours, but also those of the whole culture that has inevitably conditioned our way of intending life, from the day we were born to the day we set off. I want to talk about this kind of journey. These are journeys with no return, as others told me, because to retrace one's steps or come back to the point where one started off is simply another adventure, another journey. Day after day, step after step, you find sensations and places, faces and experiences that make you understand who you are and what surrounds you. It is a discovery that transforms your way of being and strengthens and reinforces attitudes that will never leave you. And at the same time, it offers you experiences that can shock you and take you beyond these certainties. A journey where nothing is mapped out in advance, and during which all your truths come out and blossom. The truths that you cultivate for yourself and which make you behave and act. Truths that are continuously put in question and become stronger or weaker under the blows of our merciless critique. Intuitions and ideas and firm beliefs that are dealt with, fight with one another, and finally go along with other people's truths in a common path. These are the criteria representing the sense of our journey, and show us where to look, where to go, who is on our side, and who is our enemy. I'm talking about the truths that stimulate confrontation and growth, far from the monstrous truth that is the same for everybody. Social and ethical dogma imposed in advance that fights and fears the other truths. Open a door and the world faces you in all its usefulness and misery, but you find yourself wondering whatever can have shaken this huge quagmire. How much luck will you have in the race against time? How many moves do you have left to play? You ask yourself this, and the answer reveals that the various paths are all but exhausted. The next step, a crossroads, unexpected slopes, and your road shows itself with all the evidence and certainty that allows you to go ahead. End of October. You always need to be ready to face new situations. The reality you deal with is continually changing. Sometimes these changes lead you to paths that, at best, you only ever visited in your imagination. This can happen to anybody, but especially to those who cultivate a desire to shake rules and regimes and open up their todays and tomorrows to different ways of life, social relations, and ways of getting and managing what they need, both as individuals and members of a community. In this case, the chance of taking a path that goes beyond the codes of availability and identification grows significantly. This is proved by the experiences of those who have engaged in the struggle for freedom, with all the meanings that these words have taken in space and time. It is a path along which you can find yourself, because it is the only one left. But it can also be a choice made to follow your needs, projects, and desires in your own time. Today I know that it is hard to break those bridges down, but it is possible. It is like a conquest of yourself and of your abilities. A conquest that, step by step, strengthens your certainty and trust in what you think, and what you want to be possible, and what you create with determination and enthusiasm. The freedom I breathe today comes from the silence and restlessness of being away from my habits. 25th April. There are rules, conventions, pieces of paper, technological innovations that organize the existent according to the needs of production and social management developed by the ruling power. There are moments when all this is too suffocating for those who want to blow up this huge prison. Then you need other spaces, abilities, and a different dimension in which to learn to move. It is the dimension of secrecy, a series of expedients, relations, projects, and actions that allow you to keep your initiative and strengthen your ability of intervention without being identifiable, controllable, and therefore locatable. The dimension of secrecy runs parallel to that of the existence as we normally intend it. It penetrates it or moves away from it according to our needs and goals. 1328. I'm on the train. I left the last shadows that were following me some hundreds of kilometers away. After a quick run between the shelves of a double-exit supermarket, and a sudden ride on 2 buses heading towards the suburbs. Trains also stop in the suburbs, and there are fewer cameras that you can easily avoid. Nobody is following me, and in my wallet I have documents with details that are not mine. A new haircut, a pair of glasses, some anonymous clothes, and it's not me anymore. Before catching this train, I took one of those bags that it is never convenient to keep in your house. I've got what I need, and I know that, thanks to the precautions I took, I don't run the risk of ending up at some dangerous checkpoint, unless something very unfortunate happens. I know my route, even if I'll have to take roads I've never taken before and visit places I've never seen. The journeys of someone on the run is not like taking a break from daily routine. Wherever you arrive, you immediately have to understand what the space you're in is like. You have to find the conditions that best satisfy your needs in that place. You try to see the dangers as well as characteristics that could be useful. The route you take is a photo album where you put strategic spots, underground passages and one-way streets, houses of friends, discreet bars, hotels where you are not asked for documents, and parks where you can camp without anyone noticing you. I'm here now, an unknown person among unknown people, and I know very well what I want to do. A false step, a word said at the wrong time, a suspicious look or gesture that attracts too much attention to myself. These are the mistakes that I have to be very careful not to make if I don't want to run any danger. It is important to move now, determined but self-assured, like a fish in water. Here he is. My guide is waiting for me under the clock in the square. He starts walking a few meters ahead, on the other side of the road. I follow him, and I know that in the distance I'm watched by other eyes, friends and accomplices. Good. I think that a journey like the one we are about to undertake is more fascinating if it is made in company. A journey undertaken by someone on the run is not at all carefree. There are insidious passages, and you always have to consider the possibility of a forced return to the situation you're escaping from, with all the consequences that this implies. You learn to live with the possibility of facing death more than you do in other circumstances. Such a possibility is not so unlikely within the context of an unreserved struggle against power and its guards. It is not paranoia, it is just one of your thoughts, the awareness that death is one of the many possible conclusions of your adventure. It is not at all easy to face conditions like these, especially as they imply running away from everything that surrounds you, in a more or less drastic way depending on the specific circumstances of your journey. And you might feel lonely without your usual friends and loved ones. It is as if a part of you has been torn away from your inner being. You walk, you have your legs, your arms, and your brain, but something is missing. It is a void that it would not be too difficult to give into. This strange wayfarer can ease the nostalgia that accompanies him with encounters along the way, soften it with new relations and experiences that he couldn't otherwise have had the chance to meet, or that he wishes he could meet. I don't just mean those who are living in the same condition in this open prison without bars. We can say that he finds a new way of facing human reality in its more concrete needs, depressing misery, and real joy and sincerity. This condition not only depends on your own new way of making relations, because you need them or because they happen owing to some particular circumstance, but also on the way in which others relate to you and interpret these relations. As you cannot count on identity, allowing others to recognize you for things you have done in your life, or for what people say or think about you, the clandestine rediscovers the very essence of his choices and aspirations. He realizes that the reasons for the obstinate desire for subversion that animates him are deep, clear, and meaningful. So he can experience a more authentic and immediate way of communicating and making relations that he maybe never had the opportunity to experience before. And he finds a new language to express the essence of his character and certitudes to others. El Melfi. We arrived in the town the night that the local football team won an unlikely victory in the championship. In the bars, disillusioned people gave vent to the habitual rite of hurling abuse and drinking in front of big screens, at times not even allowing one to follow the ball. El Melfi had already arrived, and his presence was rife in the laughter that accompanied our night. Al-Melfi is a sensation that becomes alive and takes flesh and blood, a way of moving among people, smiling or gazing in a way that hits your face and transforms your muscles and nerves. If you feel his presence, it will never leave you. Al-Melfi was on our side in the carefree fun to which we were dedicated in the metropolitan green of the camp where we were guests, and he made us taste, through the voice of memory, the exceptional quality of the few moments we lived together. Al-Melfi carries in himself the unique dimension of an individual who has run away from home and is strongly convinced in his heart that if he put everything at stake, and maybe also lost a lot, it was for an overpowering change, not only in his own condition. He is the sense of coming back to something that you had begun, to a land that loses its shape in recollection and becomes something ideal, and that pushes you to look for it elsewhere, in people and situations that you haven't met so far. For this reason, Al-Melfi shows himself to the unknown person at the half-open door, in the colorful yard full of strong smells of peasant cooking, and of men, women, and children looking for a future in the chains of an existence that crushes freedom and hope. For this reason, Al-Melfi runs in the woods and across the rocks to penetrate the heart of oppression and pushes a knife deep into it. We know that. We look at each other out of the corner of our eyes, and our thoughts go farther than the half-words and curiosity of our companions of the night can go, right there where our freedom meets Al-Melfi's. That night we threw our bags in the corner of a mattress, and at dawn for the nth time we left an oasis of temporary convivial tranquility and lost ourselves in the tangle of thousands of streets and ideas. But we were sure that we would never abandon each other on any account. But in the end, after all this moving, discussing, shouting, and planning, you are alone. You are alone in the face of your responsibilities and your ability, real or imagined, when communicating with others. You are alone in the face of your tenacity and obstinacy, which you have to hold on to in order not to collapse in the slime that surrounds you, in the misery of human relations and perspectives, in the small and great resignations of daily life. You are alone, but you have something inside you that pushes you into making new relations, plans, and struggles. Living as a clandestine therefore becomes an attitude among the many that can complete your way of being, thinking, and acting. It is a journey that gives you a filter to interpret what surrounds you, according to criteria that transform the way you see life, the time and space of your movements, and the way you settle yourself. I try to reflect, to see what has been done and what not, and I find myself following strategic and improbable choices. Improbable not because they are not appropriate to the social context in which I find myself, or because I made some terrible mistake in understanding the needs that the movement of struggle against authority expresses. Improbable because they don't take into consideration what I really am, the roads I cover, the gulf that, in the deepest part of myself, stands between me and most of the people I meet. This gulf cannot be insurmountable. On the contrary, it must be overcome. You go through it one way, then you come back through it the other. It is a gulf that doesn't prevent you from living common experiences with others. But it is a gulf all the same, and when I run inside it, I find out what I am and what I have had the chance to know, develop, and put into practice in my clandestine journey, be it by chance or by lucid thinking. Only in the awareness of the distances I inevitably covered in my experiences, my abilities and my way of facing life, and therefore the struggle, do I feel I can fix my determined eyes on the paths of future journeys.